So, some cool stuff was found in MM lately. I've done a bit of digging to figure out what's going on, so let's get into it. The new glitch people are calling Remote Hookshot. To perform, you need an empty bottle equipped on the NEC button. I'll get into why soon enough. You take out Hookshot, you want to aim in Z-targeted mode. If you want to hookshot something anyway, you can aim at something and then just drink your milk. And now the hookshot that was there is still there, updating. And I can move wherever and take out the hookshot, and the one that's still sitting there will shoot. And while this is happening, you can shoot another one. So you can shoot two hookshots at the same time in different directions. And yeah, hookshot onto multiple things. And there are some cool effects you can get with this. You can make it so that you can levitate around with the hookshot. You can do hookshot jumps. I think I might have a state to show the levitating stuff. So if I aim at this one, drink, and then come over to the other one and shoot before the remote hookshot hits its target. You can hookshot two things at once. And then you can levitate around with this one that's active. It's really cool. Like I said, there's some hookshot jump stuff. A bunch of people in the MM Discord have been messing around with it. But yeah. So while I'm explaining, I'm going to be going through a good bit of code. For those that don't know, we have the decomp projects going on for OoT and MM. What that's basically doing is recreating the source code for both games. And OOT's decomp is much further along, so I'm going to be using OOT's code to explain what's going on in MM. And for those that can't read code, I'm going to try to explain it the best I can so you can understand without it. So there are a few different things that line up to allow this to work. This glitch is honestly very complicated. So I'm going to try to peel off one layer at a time and try to help make it make sense. So first, let's go over what the intended behavior is. So with bottles, the intended behavior is that when you catch something in a bottle, you will keep the bottle in your hand with the contents in it. So a fish goes in the bottle, and you can keep it. Now, for emptying a bottle, the intended behavior is that you go back to holding what you were holding before. So you'll see the hookshot comes back out. Now, it's very clear that this is the intended behavior because of this function right here, player update bottle held, and it does exactly as it describes. And now these functions are exactly the same between OOT and MM. So there are these three values here: held item ID, held item action parameter, and item action parameter. And these are the three values right above my head right here. So we'll be keeping track of those. Now, you'll see here that it says if the item is not equal an empty bottle, meaning that if you are emptying a bottle, it's going to skip setting these two values, which is very important, but it will still set this one. So we can see that in practice here. So you'll see that when I swipe this bottle, these three values above my head are going to change. And they'll stay that way. Right? But when we empty it, it's going to change, and then it goes away, and he puts the bottle away. And if he had an item out, he would keep holding it. Now in OOT, this behavior is the same for all bottles, including milk. And you can see right here that when the game calls update bottle held, it passes in the item ID for empty bottle all the time, even for milk going to half milk. So even though the bottle is technically not empty, the game is still treating it as empty, so that the same behavior still happens. However, in MM, a change was made, basically saying if the current item, or the item being updated to, is equal to half milk, right? Then it says item equals half milk. Else, item equals empty. So they changed what item they passed to this function. Probably because it just looked weird that a half milk bottle was being treated as an empty bottle. But in reality, this fix didn't need to be made because it still works exactly as intended. But that's what happened. Now this change is all well and good. However, in this function here, if you remember, we're checking for empty bottles specifically to avoid some behavior. And the extra code that was needed here, or item does not equal half milk, was not added in Majora's Mask. So if you are going from a full milk bottle to half milk bottle, these two values here are going to be overwritten, which is not good. So just so that you see here, we have 0 FF0. Now my hookshot is out, and hookshot is item 0F. And I'm gonna drink the milk. And you see it changes to 19, action parameter 15. Now the hookshot is still out, and my action parameters got updated when they shouldn't have. So now, when I take out the hookshot, it still shoots. Now Turkin actually found this morning that you can take out other things after drinking milk. You don't even have to shoot the hookshot. But you can drink milk, and the resulting effect is basically action swap. It literally is action swap. If I take out empty bottle, I'm gonna get this bow bottle thing that shoots like sort of slingshot seeds, but they look like flying Deku Nuts. It's really weird. But yeah, this is basically action swap. So that explains how the action parameters get messed up. But there's still two big questions unanswered. First, why do you need an empty bottle equipped? And two, how does the hookshot that you took out before still live and still shoot? So to answer that first question about needing an empty bottle, let's see what the behavior is when you drink milk with hookshot out with no empty bottle equipped. Drink, and then he puts it away. So there's something going on that's requiring an empty bottle instead of just a half milk that you just drank. This function here runs every frame that you have something in your hand or a mask equipped, and its purpose is to make sure that the item in your hand matches one of the items on your C buttons. So it checks for your sword, C left, C down, C right. And it says, okay, if the item on these C buttons matches what's in your hand, then we're good. Otherwise, put whatever's in your hand away. So logically, you'd be thinking that the game would be checking for half milk on your C buttons to keep half milk in your hand. However, in that fix from earlier that I described, they changed the item ID, but they did not change the next action parameter. The action parameter is still empty bottle. So when the game is checking your C buttons, it's comparing against empty bottle action parameter in order to keep it in your hand. So they changed one part of it, but not the other. It's important to note that even if they changed this to be correct for half milk action parameter, the glitch would still work exactly the same. You just wouldn't need an empty bottle on your C button, that's all. So on to the important questions. How can the hookshot stay loaded? And how can it shoot? Both are going to be answered in this function here. This runs when you are changing items in your hand, like when you're changing your action parameter. And down here, this code is going to run when you're changing your held item to hookshot. And this function gets called first. And this is important because it's responsible for killing the hookshot instance if you're switching to a different item. However, if you remember from before, we did the glitch so that our action parameters were written to half milk when they shouldn't be. So we drink the milk. Now our action parameters are 15 and the item ID is 19. So when this player holds hookshot checks against these values to see if you are holding the hookshot, that's going to return false. So this code will not run and the old hookshot will not die. So because of that, it can stay out and stay loaded without getting killed. And now the second function here you go over to it real quick, you'll see that it checks for held actor is not equal null, and that's true, you're holding something, and player is not holding hookshot. Now remember again, our held action parameter is for half milk. So even though we have a hookshot out and we're taking out a hookshot, this is still gonna pass and this code is gonna run. And the important line is right here. Held actor parent equals null. Nulling the current hookshot's parent pointer is what allows it to shoot. That's the signal to the hookshot that it's ready to fire. So because the action parameter is set to milk, when you take out the hookshot again, it's going to send the signal for the other one to shoot. And it shoots. And so because of this, you can just keep spawning as many as you want. Your limit is basically however many actors you can spawn in the area. The old hookshots are never going to die until you change scene pretty much, or you overload the heap. So you see I have all those extra hookshots there, and they will not go away. They'll keep sitting there updating. Even if you clear what's in your hand, do other stuff, the next time you take your hookshot out, they're still over there updating, and it's gonna draw the chains. You can see them all right there. So to recap from the top, this glitch is only possible in MM because they added a check for if you're going from milk to half milk, and they passed the right item ID to player update bottle held. However, in player update bottle held, they did not add an extra check for half milk for this condition here. So your held item ID and held item action param are getting overridden when they shouldn't be. Additionally, they did not add an extra check for what action parameter to pass here. So it's looking for empty bottle action. And this is why you must have an empty bottle on your C button, because the check for putting it away is relying on this value here. The hookshot that you took out before activating the held item glitch will not be killed because of this code here. It checks player holds hookshot, which is going to reference these values, which are now overwritten with half milk. So this function, actor kill, cannot run. So the hookshot is just going to sit there updating constantly. And when you take out a second hookshot, this function is going to run, which is going to check if the held actor is not null, which is true, and if player is holding hookshot. And even though the hookshot is out there updating, your action parameter is still half milk. So this is also true, and this code runs. And this line here is responsible for making that remote hookshot fire. And while that remote hookshot is firing, you can also shoot your new one. And you can repeat this process over and over again and get as many hookshots out as you want. Now, as you might have guessed, over in OoT, doing the glitch this way is not possible at all. They treat the emptying of any bottle as a pure empty bottle and an empty bottle action, even for drinking milk. See that if I take out the hookshot and then drink milk, I'll get the intended behavior of holding the hookshot in your hand again when it's done. So the hookshot never even had a chance to stay loaded and then be fired again later. Now, it is possible to simulate the same glitch to see what would happen if it was possible. And I can do that by bringing up the assembly for this function right here, update bottle held. If I get rid of this if check here so that it always overwrites, now I gotta do it again. Now when I drink milk, I get the same effect as MM, exactly the same. But I guess it's a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you look at it. The hookshot in OoT just shoots straight to the ground. It doesn't go forward. Even if you aim all the way up before doing it, it just defaults to straight down. And as far as I know, this is the same behavior in Majora's Mask 3D, which is especially strange, because I would expect that whatever changes were made to make this possible would have stayed in 3D, but yeah, it just shoots straight to the floor. So even if it was possible, it wouldn't work the same way. You wouldn't be able to do the same cool things. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope I explained it in a way that made some kind of sense. I was not involved in finding this glitch at all. I just did all of the research to figure out how it worked. Shoutouts to Javil, however you pronounce that, sorry. He found the milk to half milk glitch that made that possible, and people in the MM Discord found all the applications. I know Keto was messing around with it, Kyle, Riley, Turkin, Master Zelda, and probably more that I'm forgetting. But yeah, the MM Discord has been doing some research on this stuff, and it's really cool. Yeah, that's all.